Hey there, gamers! As I said, this is kind of going to be a Data East kind of day right now. Here's a system I haven't covered. Oh, I have it on a slight mute. Yep, the Sega Saturn. This is the only time I'm going to show you from the BIOS screen, though, in this case, mainly because I have an action replay. This allows me to play imports on my Saturn, because unlike a lot of things, you can't just mod it. You can have the cartridge to play imports, but it won't play burn games. There's two separate encodings that keep you from being able to do this stuff. Anyway, this game is going to be Fighter's History Dynamite on the Sega Saturn. Now, this is one of the cool things. This is the only real load time in the entire game. It's about a good 30 seconds, but it's the only load time. After this, there's like no load times. Anyway, Fighter's History, the original one, was made in 1993 by Data East. It was released on the arcades and the SNES, the Super Nintendo. Even today, that's generally considered to be a Street Fighter II ripoff. It was so much of a ripoff that Capcom USA actually sued Data East USA because of that. Unfortunately for Capcom, the courts decided, you know what, the stuff that you did in Street Fighter, that's kind of like just, in general, stuff that could be happening in fighting games. So, Data East then, Capcom lost the suit, and Data East was able, and 1 year later, on the Neo Geo NVS, they were able to make a sequel, Fighter's History Dynamite, which around the world, I think in the arcades, it was called Fighter's History Dynamite, but once it came over to the consoles, they renamed it Karnov's Revenge. Probably just to try to keep away from the Fighter's History name, because unfortunately it had been sullied at that point. As you hear, this is the arranged music, the arranged soundtrack. There is the ability to choose the MVS soundtrack, but I like the arranged music a good bit. In this Saturn version, now the Saturn version came out 3 years later in 1997. It does give you the ability to choose the overseas, which lets you have English, the English translation, but it uses the Karnov's Revenge name, and I don't want to use that name. I like the Fighter's History Dynamite name. Anyway, so you see 94, Data East, 97, brought over to the Saturn. Now, this game, so let me just show you, go over the characters really fast. You have Ray McDougal, the main character. You have Phelan, Ryoko, just like World Heroes, based off the same Ryoko that went to the Olympics and was a big hero in Japan. Got Matlock, Samche, Lee, Mizuguchi, Jean, Marstorius, Youngmi, and Zazie, who are the two new characters to Dynamite, and the bosses Clown and Karnov. Now I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to choose Mizuguchi. He's pretty much the most well-known character. He's the most popular one. After Fighter's History Dynamite, around 95 or so, this SNES got a spin-off called, I believe, Fighter's History Ippots Mizuguchi Kiki. I believe. The name might be a little off. It pretty much had a story mode that revolved around Mizuguchi fighting characters. One thing it had, though, that was pretty cool that I would love to play is actually a extra tag battle mode. Because around that time, 95, that's, kind of like when Kizuna Encounter came out on the Neo Geo and you had X-Men vs. Street Fighter. So you see right now, I just dizzied Mizuguchi. And I'm charging up, and that's so I'll get to, now I did two things right there. One thing that makes this game a little different than a usual Street Fighter-esque game is the dizzy system. Instead of just, beating up your opponents so much that they get dizzied, every character has a weak spot. In Mizuguchi's case, as you can see, both characters, you have a headband. If you damage the person in the head enough times, and actually hit, not just block, but if you damage them in the head enough times, they will get dizzied. And it's pretty much, they're dizzied until they're hit. And when they're dizzied, the next attack that the opponent hits with, will do extra about 50 to 60% damage extra. So the dizzy system, if you get your opponent dizzied, you can really, see right there, I just dizzied him again. Yeah, so I kind of messed up that dizzy right there. Okay. And pretty much that charge up fireball I did, every character has like a kind of a hidden move. Some of them are just like, an extra motion. Some of them require you to do a motion pushing all 4 buttons. This is a Neo Geo, so you have 4 buttons. You have 2 punches, 2 kicks. Mizuguchi, in his case, his 2 hidden moves require a motion and all 4 buttons. The Saturn version assigns those all 4 button presses to Z and C in the default. So here's Gene. He's kind of the Guile of the series, all charge based and everything like that. I myself, I only use the Z and C against the computer mainly just so it's a little easier to fight against. Yeah, this is the NVS, so it's not quite as, it's not exactly going to be a cakewalk for me. But, there's enough difference in this game to make it its own title. It's not just a straight-up Street Fighter ripoff. Maybe the original generally is agreed to be. But in this, the Fighter's History Dynamite is a bit of a cult hit, cult classic. To this day in Japan, they'll still hold Fighters History Dynamite tournaments in arcades, and even in like American tournaments, you know, they'll still have like maybe side tournaments run by like gamers that for games like Fighters History Dynamite. People still play it to this day. Now, yes, here's his little flash kick. Gene's weak spot is actually that French flag on his leg. So if you hit him in the leg area, in that area enough times, and you make him lose his flag, he'll get dizzied and he'll be able to take another 50-60% extra damage. That's kind of the one thing. I mean, there's a tier list and everything like that. You know, some characters are better than others. But the dizzy, it's generally agreed upon though that the dizzy system does help even the game out. Pretty much, if you get a dizzy, you can easily dominate. You can easily change the game around with the dizzy system by dizzying your opponent. Adds a nice little bit of strategy to the series, and it definitely makes it pretty fun. I mean, this is definitely a fun game. The Saturn version, I think, is a little more rare. It's definitely cheaper than either the Neo Geo or Neo Geo CD versions. But I would definitely love to see this game be a part of a Diddy's Arcade Classics 2. Of course, there's none announced right now. The first collection just came out. But if there's a second collection, I would definitely like to see this. So I'm going to continue. And I'm going to choose Ray in this case. Really, I've mainly just played Ray and Mizuguchi. Ray's kind of, in a sense, he's the Ryu of the series. The Ryu or Ken of the series. He's the main character. So, gee, I wonder what Ray's weak spot is. Maybe it's that big red, lightning on his chest. Unfortunately, Ray is generally considered one of the best characters in the game, but he has like one of the most obvious weak spots in the game, so you can get dizzied really easily. So yeah, see, he has this dynamite tackle, he has wheel kick, which is actually a really good anti-air move, and you know, actually can, on the Shoryuken forums, they generally consider Ray to be the best character, mainly because of wheel kick. It's a great anti-air move, it goes over projectiles. He also has this projectile called Big Tornado, but if you listen carefully, it sounds like he says baked potato, and honestly. There you go, see, now I just dizzied him. Now I just finish him off, does a little extra damage. But definitely, I mean, if you saw Fighters History, the original Fighters History, and you're like, nah, this is a Street Fighter ripoff, I don't want to try that one. Don't let that fool you into thinking Fighters History Dynamite is not, you know, any different. Fighters History Dynamite is definitely a really fun fighting game, especially if you like, you know, games like Street Fighter. It's definitely a really fun fighting game. I would love to see this be in a second Deities collection from Majesco and G-Mode and G1M2. So I'm just gonna keep playing, and you know, this is Fighters History Dynamite. And I lose. Yeah, this is the MVS setting, so it's not going to be quite as easy, not that easy. Oh, that's right, I lost a round. I won the first round.